these are the best possible setups for the month of July. Keep in mind, I am long the market. I am bullish. I think we're going to have rate cuts potentially on the horizon. The debt bill will pass at some point. The Israel and Iran war has de-escalated. And then although there's still some uncertainty with Canada around trade, which could cause some volatility, but ultimately I think the market is going to grind higher into that first rate cut, which is expected in September. So given that, I'm only looking at stocks that are breaking out to the upside. I'm bullish the market, and so I am looking for stocks that are in an uptrend or breaking out, reversing from a downtrend and moving higher. So the first one that I'm looking at, and this just came across my radar, is Zeta Global. Zeta Global is like a marketing automation software incorporating AI, of course, and they've had some trouble recently. You can see back in November, it had this 50% drop on the stock. And that happened because there was a short report that was published saying that they were round tripping revenue, as well as how they collect data from their customers. It was a regulatory issue, compliance, things like that. And we had this really large sell-off, about 50%. The company put out a statement a few days later on the 23rd saying that it was all a lie, that they are audited by Deloitte, which is a credible third party, and there's no issue with how they collect data or how they are recognizing revenue. But nevertheless, it did cause some panic, and it's been in this somewhat of a downtrend, right? Obviously, this big sell-off here, March into April, was driven by the tariff and trade wars, but it recently had a really strong uptick in volume. You see all this volume that came in, and it broke out of this wedge through these 2-3 reaction trend lines. It had a breakout, and now it's starting to retrace and retest that 1495 level. Well, it just broke out. It's coming back down for a retest. There's tons of volume. It's getting pumped on social media, namely Twitter, by a lot of popular accounts. And ultimately, I think that this could be a really solid entry at that 1495 level. Now, back in May, we had this really large bull gap that formed on earnings. And you can see that it came up and then came back down, retested that $15 level, and then it pushed all the way to the upside. And you can see that this like 1965 level acted as support multiple times. And so that's a key level as well. And what I'm looking for now is a strong move to 1965. And even funny enough, if you were to saw this even smaller gap that formed back in April of 2024, it actually came back down and filled that gap, bounced from that gap, and now it's pushed back through this gap. So it's filled this gap multiple times, the one that was formed on earnings. And what we're really looking for now is, well, the retest has already happened, right? We came back down and retested that green trend line. What we're looking for now is for the stock to hold this 1495 level on Monday, and then have that chance to grind higher through this higher volume shelf that you're seeing here, all the way to 1965. Now, what I'd be looking at is probably playing some more short-term dated contracts, most likely August 15th or even longer. If you want to be a little less risky, you can take a longer dated like September call contracts or August call contracts. Ultimately, you want to take something that can go in the money. So like an $18 or a $19 call. Even a 17 or a 16 is all viable, just depending on how much risk that you want to take. Ultimately, the closer in the money ones are going to be less risky. And you can see there's a lot of like low volume nodes within this volume shelf that have acted as resistance. You can see here, like it came up and it bounced down out of there a few times, and even here. So there are some areas to get through, but ultimately, as long as it can hold this $15 level, I'm bullish on it. It's going to try to make that move to 1965. And because there's so much volume now, it's more than likely that we get to have a little bit of another little breakout here from this near-term downtrend that's happening here. So that's what I'm looking for on Zeta Global. Then AMD, this is one that we've been playing. we're heavy in shares. It finally had this long-term break of structure, came back and retested near the AMD event, and then it's been pushing higher and higher. This $144.35 level has acted as resistance. We actually pushed over it, but price is starting to chop out a little bit. Ultimately, AMD is going to have to try to get through this gap all the way up to 166. And so you can play some calls if you want to play it to 152 or even up to 166 if it can fill this gap. It will most likely reverse around this 166 level once it actually fills. So that's what I'd be looking for on AMD. Really, we're already in this position and just holding this one. Just wanted to give you an update there. But for semis, I am now looking at SMCI. So SMCI is also in a similar structure. This is the higher trend line, right? So you have like different reactions here that is not drawing through here. This is only a 2 reaction. So it's not as solid of a trend line. Usually when you have more reactions, the better the breakout. How AMD had that really clear downtrend. SMCI though did break out of a more near-term downtrend. As you can see here, we draw through these trend lines. You can see it broke out of this within the upper trend line, but it consolidated here in this $38 to $48 range and broke out of this consolidation pattern. And there is an uptick in volume. So that's all really solid and indicative of a breakout that is happening. So what we're looking for here is just to load up on calls. Hopefully a bullish pattern can form here, maybe a bull flag. Maybe it comes back down and retests this level a few times. But really we're looking for this upper trend line to hold and then try to squeeze through some of this lower volume towards like this 59 low volume node, and then even potentially get through this higher volume shelf to around 64. So I am playing, I think 55 calls on this one, and we're looking for a move to 59 to 64 between August and even potentially September if you want to be a little less risky on those as well. And then Grab, I talk about this one a lot. It's one of the stocks that we own in the challenge portfolio. This one is setting up for a monster move. It's had almost 3.5 years of being in this bottoming pattern. It is starting to break out of there back in November, and then now it came back down and retested this big volume shelf when all the tariffs was happening. It had that really strong reversal, retraced the move completely. They just raised $1.5 billion in cash. They have $8 billion in cash. They are going to buy either GoTo or Food Panda probably in the next 6 to 12 months. When that happens, I do think it will be bullish for this stock. They're going to consolidate, acquire revenue, and I think that the management team is really well run. So solid company overall. Really looking for the break of the green trend line here. If it can break through this green trend line, we're going to come up and fill that bear gap that has been sitting there for a long period of time. But this is like an 8-month pattern, right? So we have like a 3-year pattern and then an 8-month pattern. When this thing breaks out, it's spring loaded, ready to run. We're going to be looking at 567. It'll probably reverse a little bit there, maybe come back down and retest this like 530 level. So if you're playing short dates, definitely take profit in the strength. But ultimately, I do think we are going to push through, get to that 680 to 763 level, and there's almost no volume here. So a move to $10 is certainly possible in 2026, maybe even 2025, just depending on how the market reacts to that potential acquisition. So really strong move potential here on Grab. I really like it for the long term as well if you want to buy shares. CRISPR Therapeutics, I talked about this in the last video. Solid breakout here as well. We've been entering in on the retest here, and really what I'm looking for is like $50 calls for, I think I actually have October. So I have a lot of time on this one. This stock doesn't move that quickly, but I do think $52.48 and even potentially $59 are solid price targets. And then more recently here, you've had multiple price target upgrades. You can see it here. It's at $81, $65, $86. $105 by Piper Sandler, and then someone cut from hold to hold from buy. So it's a little mixed, but mostly bullish on the analysts who are upgrading the price here. I think CRISPR Therapeutics could potentially make a really solid run like you've seen it run in the past, now that it is holding over that $46 level, right? Every time it's over 46, you get these really strong bullish moves to that $59 level. So that's what I'm looking for on CRISPR Therapeutics. And then Disney, we already made 107% return on the breakout and retest here. We entered in some calls and we had a really nice move. 107% on the July dates. We still have August dates, I think 125 calls. There's not a lot of volume here, so it's going to come back up and probably bounce off this higher volume shelf. So I'm looking to take profit here if it can squeeze through 123 to 128. Ultimately, this one is also in like a bottoming pattern, right? It's certainly possible we could get through, hold over 128, and then start trying to push all the way back up here. There's some bear gaps that still exist in the price structure. Low volume as well. So like 150, if it can get through there, like it could definitely drift towards 160 to 170. Definitely like Disney as a company, and there's still so many people going to Disney every year and watching Marvel movies and all of those things. So really bullish on Disney if you want to buy it long term, but short term, I'm looking at that 128 level to start taking some profit. And then last but not least, this stock, Apple, has really just lagged behind all the other Mag 7. Ultimately, this one is going to break out. It's going to go one way or the other. I am long the stock. I think that it is oversold from all-time highs. It was at 260. It hit 169, and now it is consolidating. It is forming a really strong wedge here, and it's about that time, right? You have this lower trend line with multiple reactions, the upper trend line with multiple reactions. It is trying to squeeze over that level. You could wait for confirmation, right? If it gets over this like 202, 203 level, it's solid to enter. Maybe it'll come back and retest, but ultimately I think we're going to push towards this 206.50 level, try to fill this bear gap here at 211, 213, like 214 level. This area has been resistance, right? So that's really the flip point. If we can turn 214 into support, then we're going to make this move to 219 to 221. And there's this bear gap that remains open, right? So I really want to see bulls come in and fill this gap all the way up to 224 over the next 1 to 2 months. It does have earnings coming up on, this is the wrong date on TradingView. It's the 11th of August. So I do think Apple will rally into August 11th for the month of July. I'm really hoping that Apple can follow NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, Netflix, all the other stocks that have fully retraced to all-time highs. I think Apple can do it. They're the most innovative they've been in many, many years, maybe the last decade, with foldable phones, trying to put more into wearables, glasses, even maybe potentially robotics down the line. But the foldable phone is probably enough to get people hyped about Apple, just because people love their products and their ecosystem so much. And then, of course, next year, they're apparently Siri is finally going to get a brain with AI, and that could also be a bullish catalyst. So I am bullish Apple into the rest of the year, but really what I'm looking for is a move to this 214 level. Definitely going to start taking profit there if we can get over there. I have some shorter dated calls like early July at 206, but ultimately I'm really hoping we can get to that 220 to 225 range where I'll be taking a lot of profit. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you're not in the Discord already, I do post all my entries and exits for free. So make sure you join that, subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.